Bing. Okay, I think it's recording. I taped my phone to my laptop because my laptop camera is crappy, but I like the positioning. So I'm just gonna try this out. Hopefully, I'm loud and visible, audible, all that good stuff. Able. So, I wanted to talk about INTJ. Not just INTJ as an archetype, but as an experience. So maybe the sort of non stereotypical INTJs, the real, actual, embodied INTJs. Um, and INTJ itself is some weird out there concept. So, um, because I've recently tested as INTJ, and I was just watching a video yesterday of another woman who says she's an INTJ, and I don't know if she is or not. Takes me a while to kind of think and figure out for other people, you know, what their types are. I have lots of different ideas about it, but there are all these comments from people saying, oh, she's not an INTJ because she obviously has FE, or she seems to be more this or that, or whatever. Oh, she's wearing makeup, so she's not an INTJ. And I'm like, oh, yeah, because you know what her experience is like. I mean, granted, of course, there's all these like external indicators that you should be able to tell, right? But again, the archetype is different from an actual person. So I'm looking here at my computer screen of this test that somebody gave me yesterday. I took online, celebrity types thing. And I like this. I've never seen it before. Maybe I'll try to put a picture in if I decide to edit this video of the different results, because they broke down the 8 subtypes. The intuition, so extroverted intuition, introverted intuition, extroverted sensation, introverted sensation, thinking and feeling, blah, blah, blah. So there's 8 of them. And after these 48 questions that you answer on a grading scale of like sort of the middle is indifferent, and then less agree, very strongly disagree, more agree, very strongly agree, that kind of thing. So they give you this percentage breakdown of your dominant functions, and it's independent of say INTJ has 4 functions that are stuck together, and ESFP has 4 functions, that kind of thing. And so I will just tell you, I can tell you my results. A bunch of numbers might not make sense to you because statistically you're not INTJ. Unless you're watching this, then maybe you are. But my predominant function of all of the statistics here is introverted intuition at 88%. Extroverted intuition is 61%, so that's still okay. You know, I like to do that a little bit. And then down the row, so after 61% extroverted intuition, 88% introverted, then extroverted sensation is my lowest at 40%, which I'm not sure how I feel. I mean, it definitely goes along with the INTJ archetype as being the auxiliary function, though I don't know. I have all these other ideas in my head about I can't remember what they're called for the other 4 functions. If there's 8 altogether and INTJ only has the 4 predominant ones, then there's these 4 other ones below it that might be to varying degrees less or equivalent to percentages of the other ones. I saw this video by this guy on some type YouTube channel talking about how, for example, for an INTJ, whereas I may be, for example, extroverted thinking, I have at 70%. It still says I would, here my thing says 56% introverted thinking. And so even though introverted thinking is not in my functional stack, it doesn't mean that I'm bad at it. Maybe I just don't like to do it as much. So anyway, going back down the list, extroverted intuition 61, introverted intuition 88, extroverted sensation 40, introverted sensation 70, which I'm a little surprised by, extroverted thinking 70, introverted thinking 56, extroverted feeling 56, introverted feeling 65. So if I were to take the 4 most prevalent functions in order for me, it's introverted thinking, and then there's a tie between introverted sensation and extroverted thinking, and then introverted feeling. So 3 of those 4 functions are, and in the right order, the dominant, I forget these words, dominant, secondary, tertiary, auxiliary of the INTJ stack, which is NI, TE, FI, SE. So instead I might have NI, TE, SI, FI. something like that. And I actually like this better because I've been considering lately that there, within the 16 types, there's not every, different combination possible. I don't think. I mean, I might be wrong. I haven't looked in it in as depth as I could. But yeah, I haven't seen a type that does have, for example, NITESIFI or FISI, whatever. So yeah, I mean, man, there's so many ideas. I have a million. I mean, it seems like I'm maybe an NE right now. I'm very heavily caffeinated, and I've been spending my summer definitely trying to be more in my extroverted sensing. So I guess maybe I'll just say what I wanted to discuss is that people are so much more complex than a fucking 4-letter definition that you can't just like look at a video and simplify down to these 4 discrete variables. I mean, I have a degree in engineering, currently working as a teacher, but I very much understand this like mathematical mindset of all these different variables and imagine mapping them out in this sort of 3-dimensional space. And just because I'm an INTJ doesn't mean I don't have extroverted feeling. It doesn't mean I don't have or experience introverted sensation or whatever. And going back to thinking of this other INTJ female, like the fact that she wears makeup means, that she must not be an INTJ, as if INTJs are just this methodical, functional stack, and it's devoid of any interaction in it. I mean, so I guess what I'm thinking is that whereas we see oftentimes the different archetypes of the personalities as these static markers, like a statue, instead I like to think of it as this thing that there's something flowing through it and moving through it, and it's changeable. And when I think of my own personal experience, I do wonder if this is something that other female INTJs or even just female thinkers have experienced. When I was a kid, I have very specific memories of probably wanting to be what I would consider the INTJ archetype. I used to have this t-shirt that says, "Yes, it does hurt when I smile." And I was very internally focused and wanted to read all the time and study. I was like really into Bill Nye and I just had this like deep passion about being a scientist. I remember thinking like, I want to be like Einstein, and I want to have this innovative, this idea, this invention that I create that is going to totally change the world. And I just imagined as an adult that I would just be a scientist in a lab coat. But it was very early on that I became aware, maybe like in 5th grade or something, that the way that I interacted with other people made me kind of a moving target. And I am very emotionally sensitive, and maybe that's not, again, within this INTJ archetype. But it's true. Like, I think that these emotions that I have are more true to the actual, say, INTJ experience than this archetypical picture, because I feel that my emotions are very messy and confusing and can be overwhelming, and they are not the dominant thing. So it's not easy for me, and it definitely as a kid, emotions were dangerous and scary, and I couldn't get away from them. And so I had to learn, kind of like a survival mechanism, how to maybe extrovert feeling, or it felt like how, the words that I would have now that I didn't have then is, how does an intuitive person survive in a sensing world? Or how does a female thinker survive in a world that tries to force you into a box of being a feeler? And I had an environment and parents that created a scaffolding for me to be basically a sensing, feeling female. I had role models that way. And so I learned very early on how to do these things that would not seem INTJ. And I mean, if you look at these test results here, which again, you can't see, I'm I think I'm pretty well rounded. I have at least 50% on 7/8 of all of the functions here. And it's because I had this very non-typical upbringing, I believe, where there were, like, again, I would have loved to have geeked out, but I knew that it made me sort of, like I said, a moving target for being made fun of. And so very early on, I forced myself into these very uncomfortable, sort of alien functions and ways of interacting with the world. And I also was a military dependent kid, so I had to move around. And that also gave me this lens of seeing different types of culture, different, I lived in this place and everybody had this accent, and these were the things that were important. These were the things that people talked about. And then when I moved over here, it was this whole other ball game. And I still think that it was through this sort of NITE lens that I learned how to do these sort of effy things. It was like a survival mechanism, and I would study people. It was like I was putting on the emotion because the logic told me it was the right thing to do. And so I would, like, say, do this emotional interaction, and then almost like clinically, very, very much in the background of my head, not in, the other person's awareness, but very clinically observe, oh, how fascinating. When I emote in this way, I get this reply back. That is a useful thing. And so I would try to, in my head, form these sort of causal relationships between, how I interact with a person and the way that I get feedback from them. And again, because of my environment, it just wasn't, it just didn't seem the smartest thing for me to be and embody what I wanted innately to be this INTJ thing. It was like, I felt like I was made fun of. Oh, you're such a geek. And I didn't have a supportive environment that allowed me to be it. So, somebody else had this video I enjoyed talking about that every type has deep within them sort of their opposite type, and maybe it's almost like their inner child self. So the opposite for an INTJ is an ESFP, the performer, and I learned very early on how to do that. I became a cheerleader, I was in band, and I tried to wear this clown role, and I became very good at it. I can do it. I can put the mask on, maybe almost like an INFJ kind of thing. But it was exhausting to do, and after a while, it made me maybe feel kind of disgruntled, like, why do I always have to pretend for all these people? Stuff like that. But now that I'm getting older, I just turned 32, I can see the benefits of using different aspects of, say, each of these 8 different, I don't even know what they're called. Each of these things, whatever the fuck they're called. And, I have my own other theories, like I was dropped on my head when I was an infant and broke my skull. It might have, like, messed up my corpus callosum and changed the neural wiring and made it easier for me to be able to jump between the different things. Maybe my experience is not, I definitely think I'm not typical. Already, if I'm an INTJ female, then I'm not typical. But I even sometimes wonder if, again, like I just said, that these structures of the archetypes are not, the archetype itself is not the same thing as a person moving through an experience. And I think there is some validity to this idea that I have, because I've read before about, say, an INTJ that, okay, so when you're a child, you're obviously, for your whole life, you're introverted, intuition dominant. And then, through your earlier years, you spend most time in extroverted thinking. But then maybe in your 30s, say, they gave some time frame. Say in your 30s, you develop your tertiary function, and then in your 40s or older, you develop your auxiliary function. And then there was something else I read that said that some parents will do this thing that happened to me. They call it the Pygmalion Effect, trying to sort of enculturate your INTJ to be normal in society and stuff like that. And so I feel like my experience is that I was forced to sort of develop backwards, where it was, and also in the family I lived in, I was very smart. I was the smartest in my family, like aspiring to be smart, the highest goals of wanting to, I want to be a particle physicist, or I want to be, I mean, I am an electrical aerospace engineer, and it wasn't supported for me to have all these brainy ideas all the time. It was just like jokes about, oh well, she's smart, ho ho ho, but I don't know anything. So my personal experience is developing backwards, being forced to learn how to be in the sensate world a lot. So developing more sensory awareness, though it's still personally something that I think I can struggle with from time to time, and can be tiny and exploded and sort of disproportionate. And then because I'm a female, being forced into having to learn how to emote. Maybe also I have an ENFP mother who's very emotional, and so I can do of the feeling, obviously there's FI and FE, and I can do the FE thing, but I find myself still wanting to just having a very strong FI, like having very deep values, core values. But sometimes some of the values are to, like, it's kind of like doing the emotional sensing stuff sometimes is the shortest distance to get to the INTJ goal that I have, which is if I want to get something done, but there's all these people in the way that I have to placate who are SF people, then you just throw them a bone. You just do the little thing until they get off your back so you can focus on this thing over here. I mean, so I just don't think it's as cut and dry as, oh, well, I seem very reserved and my face is like blank, and obviously I'm looking off here, which means that I'm thinking and visualizing pictures in my inner world, and the fact that I'm talking in this logical order means that I'm using my TE, blah, 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 blah. I don't seem to be, very aware. If I'm not wearing makeup, then I'm not in my sensory world. Oh, that must mean I'm an INTJ. Oh, but if I'm wearing makeup, or if I've got my hair here, or if I have any fucking colors on me at all, then, oh, far be it, for me to claim this obviously wrong impression of this INTJ-ness, whatever the fuck it is. So, yeah. I don't know what else I wanted to say around this topic, just kind of that, and it's very rambly. It's sort of organized at a very core level. I feel like there's a spine, and then there's all these tangents that are sort of going off of it. Maybe it looks like NE more than NI, but it's on a specific topic, so maybe it's NI in that way. I don't know. I'm doing this meta-analysis of what I'm saying as I'm saying it. Yeah. It's not as cut and dry and as obvious as you think. And I think the system is an interesting, fascinating one to use, but nothing is fucking Bible. So how can we use it as the foundation to do exactly what I was just saying, how my talk is? Like, to modify it or to throw our experiences on it, not just to define, again, the static archetype, but I would love to see innovations and changes with it. And what, I like to compare Myers-Briggs to spiral dynamics, or I had this great note about, I was just reading through my journal last night about Piaget's theories of cognitive development and maybe spiral dynamics, or even all of them together, or Myers-Briggs with astrology, or take all these different systems and interpose them and make this sort of 3D or, 4D moving thing that's even more than this. So I guess, yeah, another thing that I'm just going to throw in at the end here is that sometimes I feel very bored by videos that are just rehashing the same fucking thing over and over. Well, the INTJ typically, standardly does this kind of thing. It's like, let me see the color and the variety, let me feel the stuff that's, I think the feeling should support the logic that goes at the top, maybe. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say for now, and I have to peel the tape off here to push stop.